Hello, I'm Sara, otherwise known as Division 10, and I have here some friends of mine who are fans of a gaming podcast that all of us like, and I have roped them into helping me discuss ambient sound, otherwise known as diegetic sound, specifically in Final Fantasy XIV, because there are some excellent examples of it. So everyone want to sound off, bow, say hello?
Hello.
Hey.
Alright, so first I'm actually going to talk about the jump sound. That is jumping on snow, and that sound actually changes, if you notice, depending on the depth of the snow that I'm jumping in. That sound shouldn't change between character types, so if our Lalafell, who is very small, wants to jump, they're actually jumping on the rocks right now, so their sound is a little different. And for someone like myself, who's visually impaired, legally blind, being able to hear exactly what kind of terrain I'm standing on is important, which is why we've picked this specific dungeon instance to speak on, because there's a lot of really cool diegetic sounds in this dungeon that help me, as someone who's legally blind, be able to navigate without actually being able to see all that well. There's a lot of mechanics that can really damage you in this dungeon, and there are sounds that will help. On that note, I would like to apologize to all of my deaf and hard of hearing fans. Unfortunately, because this is going to be discussing sound as a blind person, I'm not sure how much I can help you, but I will say this: everything that you can hear in this game, you can also see. So there will be what's called stack markers, little symbols, if you follow my mouse, to the right of people's names, that will determine when their stats up and down, buffs and debuffs. So I can't see those that well. You'll be able to. And meanwhile, I use the sounds to be able to navigate this. I will try to caption this the best I can, or get some help getting this video captioned so that you can follow along, but that is just the accessibility stuff going out of the way. Next, for our healer, if you want to summon your fairy.
Yes.
So that sound that you hear, and then followed by the psh sound, followed by that third sound, is the sounds of summoning a healing fairy. That sound is different for summoning a DPS-based pet. So it's very easy for me, as someone who's visually impaired, to be able to tell the difference between a healing pet and a DPS pet being summoned, which is really neat. Also, for people who draw and sheath their weapons, there is an audible sound for that too, if some people want to do that. Yep. And you'll notice that the sound is different for each type of weapon. So that was an axe, a tanking weapon versus a DPS weapon. And I don't have stance on my hotbar. But there's mine for being a ranged. So I'm just holding my chakram. And you can hear my footsteps to let me know that I am ready to move. So let's move on into the dungeon. The other thing is if you're listening to this and you put on headphones, I'm actually able to hear, because the sound is directional, where people are actually running around me. If someone wants to run to my left and right, I can actually hear where my own party is placed relative to me. And again, when they move onto different surfaces, that sound is going to change. Alright, let's start beating something up. Now, what's really cool is I can distinctly tell what each and every weapon is, as well as that crackle letting me know that there is an AOE effect. Now, for those of you who can see, you would see that there is that big orange AOE, but I can actually hear the placement of that AOE, and that crackle lets me know where not to stand. Each of those whooshing sounds that you hear is somebody targeting an enemy, so I can hear where they're targeting from as well as where they're targeting to. And because every class makes different sounds, I can also tell what class is targeting. So that whoosh that we heard was our healer with their book. If you want to target an enemy yourself, and then one of the tank can pick it up. So that was a tank aggro sound. And you can hear it's got sort of a deep whump to it, because all of the tank weapons are large and heavy. Alright, I'm going to aggro the next one after you can get this guy. And you'll hear, because I'm using a ranged weapon, which is a chakram, that it sounds like a knife, but it also sounds like a knife that's moving through air, which is very different from there are knife weapons in this game. Alright, so targeting, you'll hear a click on and a click off when I'm targeting and detargeting something. If I'm targeting an ally, which I can't do right now because I'm playing and I'm being hit, so let's get into that fight. That whump lets me know that a large enemy has just fallen. I love talking about sound effects because you can make really weird sounds. Okay, now I know this dungeon requires keys, so if someone wants to grab and pick it up. Now I can, if I target, yep, that's the pickup sound. If I target a key or a door, I'm gonna get that click. And that blump sound lets me know that I'm too far away from it. Yeah. So, as Pashade said, we can only hear what we are targeting, which is really important because if everybody hears the target sounds of everybody else, it's chaos. So I know what I'm targeting, but they don't see that I am targeting that thing or hear that sound. Now, let's say, somebody else want to target something? Yeah, there's no reaction on my end. Yeah. So, there's a visual aspect, but I don't hear it, which is actually a good thing, because there would be so much overlapping noise. The only things that I can hear are the things I can target. But because somebody has marked that as a 1, that is what my target will jump to. So again, for someone who's visually impaired, someone else specifically saying, we need to fight this thing first, my target will jump to that, I'll hear the target noise, I'm ready to go. And each one of my attacks, you'll hear that whooshing sound, but they all sound unique, so I know exactly what thing I'm using without being able to see it. Now, I play with a controller, so I can feel each spot on my hotbar actually going. Alright, let's fight our first boss, and listen to those sounds too. So I heard that the boss was aggroed by the tank because of that deep sound, and he's already down, because we are playing unsynced right now. Now, I hear a click, but there's no enemies around, there's some treasure. And I'm going to pass on that. I'll go back to the loot. And there's a separate sound for that as well. I was wondering why this was really easy. I didn't realize we were playing this unsynced. Now there's another warning. That thwump let me know. That thwump sounds like an enemy falling. So, oh, I've targeted something. If the tank wants to grab that. So that's an ad that came out of nowhere, but there's still an audible sound for me to know that it exists. Let's keep moving. There's going to be the next sound-based mechanic in a little bit. Alright, you hear that wind? That's our next sound-based mechanic. If I stand in that wind, and that sound gets louder... Oh no. I've been hit by a permanent, what's called a DOT, which is damage over time. Now, as long as I'm standing in this wind and I can hear it, I'm being damaged. And for those of you who can see, there is a, don't heal me for this, I want to deliberately stand in the wind. There's now a symbol with an arrow pointing down for people who can see, letting me know visually as well as audibly that I'm being hit with the damage over time. Specifically frostbite. So I know as a blind player, if I stand in wind, I'm getting damaged. Now, right now we're playing unsynced, so I'm not. But if we were playing at the correct level for this dungeon, that would really hurt. Let's keep moving. Now there are flying enemies here, and they don't make any sound, but as I mentioned before, I can simply target them. The nice thing is that I don't have to be in front of something to target it. I can target an ally. The only annoyance is that there is no difference in ally or enemy attack sounds, but there is no allied attack. So if I try right now, I'm getting a sound saying invalid target. That little funk, very quick sound means I can't hit them. I'm actually targeting an ally, so I can pull off of that. Cool. I just heard another loud thwomp, so I know that an ad has been added to this area, and we've just downed it. That whoosh sound means that a beneficial effect has left the party. Alright, we're ready for the next fight? Let's do this one slowly. Don't do anything special, because there's going to be the snowball sounds. Because this is a dungeon where you actually have to aim snowballs. So if the tank wants to hit it, but let's not use any special attacks, just our regular physicals. And you can hear that my regular little physical attack isn't doing very much damage, and audibly we can also, hear that. It's just making a little tink noise rather than the loud sounds of the specials. Now that whoosh sound that we heard, there's an ad, which is Snowball. And if I attack... And you can hear that tinking noise, that's more ads as well as more ice. You can also hear the sound of snowballs growing. If I'm standing with my back to it, the sounds are now coming behind me in my headphones. So now I've heard more things turning to snowballs. Now the mechanic is we have to be able to push these snowballs into the enemy. You actually hear that it sounds like a snowball is hitting them. Roll, and then thwomp. Alright, let's put this guy out of his misery, shall we? So there's a click and then a clunk sound, one right after another. That sounds like a lock being opened. Someone's opened some treasure chests for us. Which means I can go into the loot menu and try to claim whatever's inside. Alright, I've just heard another low sound. That means I've been targeted, but the tank is taking care of those guys real quick. Let me get targeted by something. Yep, you can hear that whoosh sound. That means I specifically have been targeted. I don't believe my allies hear when I'm being targeted, only when they are. Is there a sound if I'm in your sacred soil? Do you want to put it on and let's hear it? There is a sound that you've activated it. But unfortunately, there is actually a distinct sound when I leave it, but not when I enter. This is actually a problem with people who turn on allied effects, so there is a thing for people who can see that there's allied effects that you can turn on and off, and the problem is that it also removes things like Sacred Soil. So I've had this problem. I play as a scholar pretty often, which is that class with the book and the fairy. Their big thing is putting down shields on people, and unfortunately, if you can't see the shields, if you don't know to listen to that sound that you've stepped outside of Sacred Soil, and I know I've just gotten healed, then it's a problem. And Dark Knights, unfortunately, are probably the squishiest of the tanks. I was playing with a Dark Knight, I was a Scholar, I was laying down shields on the ground for them, which is sacred soil, and they just kept running out of them because they could not see them. But they didn't know to listen for the fact that if they stepped outside of that sacred soil, there'd be a little whooshing sound letting you know that you were outside of the AOE. Alright, let's take care of these ice bosses. So this room has a bunch of bosses hidden behind ice, and you could hear the ice crack just before the bosses start coming out. And now, our tank has been targeted, but because I'm not being targeted, there's no noise. So I know that I'm not in aggro. And another ice crack, and another. More enemies have popped out. So I know that if I click the targeting button, which for me, I have a Steam controller is my back left trigger. I will target the nearest enemy, or if an enemy has been marked by somebody else, I'll target the mark. And there was a crunch behind me, so there's an enemy there. And you can physically hear when they go down, as well as when those AOEs drop. There's an ice here. I'm going to stand in it, and yep. Crash. And I know we just downed a dragon, because that made dragon noises. I also know that we're no longer walking on snow, because we don't hear the snow crunching anymore. We're now walking on solid ice. Someone's picked up a key or something else. I can't move any further. I can feel it. But if I click, I know there's a door there. And then there's the sound of the door opening. Alright, let's finish this off. Alright, again, so we can hear some of the boss stuff. Let's not do any severe damage to this guy. Just, you know, give it some light love taps. So I can hear which direction the boss is attacking from because of the howls that it makes. And now that's the sound of its AoE. Alright, I can hear that some crystals are about to fall. So let's get out of the way of that sound. Shatter with an AoE. Alright, that's this boss's main mechanic. It'll just keep doing that until we get rid of it, so let's finish him off. And there's our sound saying that we've completed the dungeon. There should be one treasure coffer right before the exit. So the treasure has been opened. So if I target, I'm going to be targeting the exit. Cool. So those are some of the diegetic sounds in one of my favorite post-ARR dungeons. What's nice is that we also didn't spoil any plot for you guys who want to check out Final Fantasy XIV. I'll be doing a separate video on how to craft when you can't see, and all the sounds associated with doing the crafting mini-games to make, you know, weapons, armor, etc. So, thank you all, and if you want to sound off, you three, we'll end it here.
Hope you folks like this game. It's really cool, and we really enjoy it. And, it's fun.
All right.
Have fun recording.
Yeah. Thank you.